It's the Sean Widmer Podcast. It's a journal by someone that just really doesn't like to write.
Big week. Big week. It is, I'm recording this on June 24th, 2024. Big week for me and for the world. Hoopfest week, baby! We're going to get into that in a second. Hoopfest week. I've got thoughts from the weekend. My timeline, my phone was filled with Dave, Ken, and Molly stuff from what happened. The podcast Friday covered my thoughts on a lot of that. I do need to address some things that have happened since I got that podcast posted, so we're going to get into that. And then a Kelly's What Are You Into that also ties in to Friday's podcast. We will get in to that as well. I hope your weekend was great. My weekend was great overall. I'm getting excited for this weekend, but I've got some hecticness going on in my life. Before we get into the Dave, Ken, and Molly stuff, some hecticness in my life. It's very much how my life goes, and we'll see what happens here. But we're really close to baby time here at the Widmer house. Baby number 3, little Woods, set to make his arrival. Now, originally, July 6th was the due date, which is my mother's birthday. Would have been cool for Woods to share his birthday with Graham, but that's not going to happen because that date has been moved up. Now, there's a lot to cover with this. I am set to go play Hoopfest this weekend with my buddies Marcus, Mike, and Tony. I'm supposed to take Olivia with me, my daughter, so she can see Gramps and Graham. She can see her cousins that live out there. She's been very excited about this trip for a number of months. She asks about it all the time. Is this the day we're going to Washington? Is this the day? So that's supposed to be this weekend. We are set to leave Friday and then come back here on Monday. Sorry, I just got a text making sure everything's all right. When your wife is pregnant and we're this far along, you make sure everything's all right with every single text message. You do. Anyways, we're set to go Friday, come back Monday. Here's the plan. Here is the plan. My wife has been told next Monday night, she's set to go into the hospital and get the ball rolling. Next Monday night. My wife has never had any of our kids early. They hold on for dear life. And then when they're out, they still want to go back in and they want to live with my wife inside of her belly, as my daughter says, for the rest of their lives. If my son never had been born and just got to be in the womb, this is really weird graphic talk, but it is what it is. If my son could do that, he would do that. He would go back in. He has no interest in being part of this world. He just wants to be with mom 24/7. All my kids are like this. So my wife has never just had that moment where she goes into labor and we rush off to the hospital. We haven't had that with either of our kids. It got to the point both times where the doctor was like, we got to go. It's go time. We got to get this going. You can't be pregnant any longer. And so that's how it's been with both of them. We've never experienced it another way. So this doctor was like, okay, look, we need to get the ball rolling with this one. So Monday at the latest, and if you have a baby between, what was it, last week or 2 weeks ago, and that Monday, then, well, that's where it's going to be. So I'm leaving Friday, Hoopfest Saturday, Hoopfest Sunday, leaving Spokane very early Monday morning with my daughter. We are set to land here in Lexington Monday afternoon, and then I will go pretty much straight to the hospital Monday night. Nothing could go wrong, right? Nothing could possibly go wrong. My wife is the proponent of this. When we found out that my wife was pregnant and that it was falling right around Hoopfest, I said, I'm not playing Hoopfest. Didn't put a team together, nothing. And then my wife decided she wanted me to go. I said, nope, I want to be here. She goes, nope, you're going to Hoopfest. You're taking our daughter. This is important to you. And so this is going to look like when I'm in Spokane, I'm going to get a lot of people going, why would you leave your pregnant wife? I'm telling you, you can ask her. She wants me out of here. She wants my daughter and I out of here. She wants us to go to Hoopfest. So the decision to go to Hoopfest is her decision. And I'm just happy that it's happening. So we're set to go to Hoopfest this weekend. I'm very excited about it. The world's largest 3-on-3 tournament. I'm so out of shape. Marcus, Mike, Tony, most out of shape I've ever been in my life, let alone for Hoopfest. And carry me. And it's a lot to carry this year. A lot to carry, boys. A lot to carry. Gonna have to figure out what shirts fit to play Hoopfest in. We're in that mode. We've hit that mode. So I'm excited to go. We'll see what happens. I think there's a final doctor check on Thursday. And if everything's good to go on Thursday, Olivia and I are out of here on Friday to make the trip back to Spokane for a fun weekend of Hoopfest. And then inevitably my wife will have our baby on Saturday, and it will be chaotic because that's kind of how it goes. But not like the chaos that is ensuing in Spokane. Did the podcast on Friday. There was big radio news, if you're not in Spokane, big radio news in Spokane, Washington, that I thought was kind of a big story for those of you who have radio shows you like, those of you who are interested in radio, those of you who listen to podcasts like this and you wonder what radio is anymore. One of the biggest shows in the history of Spokane radio, no offense to my guys Jay and Kevin, the biggest morning radio show in the history of Spokane, Dave and Ken, they're let go on Friday. And I had my thoughts on Friday's podcast about that. You can go back and listen to it if you'd like to. But this weekend, I was drawn back into it and a lot of thoughts because of stupid Facebook. And I've got to say, Facebook is the worst. One of the best things I ever did for myself was in the late 2010s, getting off Facebook. I had to be on it to post for the Jay and Kevin show. So I had to have access to Facebook. I had to keep my account so that I could do it. But I never logged into my account. I never looked at my timeline. I used a separate app that would post all the content for Jay and Kevin. I wouldn't even look at the comments really on the Jay and Kevin Facebook. It was way better for me. I wasn't getting in fights. I wasn't getting irritated with posts. I get so annoyed. Well, then this last year, for some reason in the fall, and not for some reason, I miss Spokane. I miss my friends in Spokane. I miss that life. And so I know a lot of my buddies' wives post on there. I know some of my friends post on there. And I got back on Facebook to try to see what was happening out there. It was my gateway to make sure that even though I'm thousands of miles away from Spokane, I could still see the people that I care about and some things that they're doing. And, pictures of the kids, pictures of my buddies, pictures of just things. What social media, the thing social media that if Facebook was used for the reason that I really like it to be used, I would love it so much, which is just a window into my friends' lives. I love that. I love it. I love getting updates on we tried this restaurant and it was great. We tried this and it was awesome. We tried this and it stunk. I'd love that stuff. And so I got on Facebook and I got to tell you, it was okay for a minute, and then the stuff started coming back in, and it's just, I get sucked in. I see stupid posts. I see dumb opinions. I see fights. I see anger, and I get sucked in. And it happened this weekend, right? Dave and Ken get let go, and some people decided this was going to be their moment to come out and just be in it and really stick their stupid feet into it. And it made me mad. And it made me sit here all weekend trying not to comment on things, trying not to get irritated with things in a world that people don't understand. A lot of people who just were listeners to radio who are making these big, bold comments and they don't know what they're talking about. They never worked a day in the radio in their lives. And maybe they've worked a couple days, but they haven't worked a career in that industry. And I felt like, well, this is ridiculous. I worked 20 years in that as a career, not just as, I dipped my feet in and did some part-time work for a year. It was every day. That was my job. That supported my life. I did it at a high level. And so I felt very educated and smart about everything that's going on. One of the big things that everyone was mad about was that Dave and Ken didn't get to do a goodbye show. I agree. That's a bummer because that is, like I said on Friday, that is extremely valuable to something you've poured your whole life into, to something where you've made an entire family out of pouring out your creative brain to, and saying goodbye is huge. I felt awful that they didn't get to say goodbye. At the same time, I understood a little bit where the people who made the decision were on that, it's not just as clean cut as they need to say goodbye. Like, it's not that clean cut. People want it to be. People just wanted to get out there and be like, this is terrible. You're terrible for not doing that. It's not that clean cut. It's very risky. It's a very risky business to just let someone grab a microphone with emotions high and try to remain professional. And I'm not saying Dave, Ken, and Molly were going to go on and blaspheme the company or anything like that, but if you're a betting person that's running a radio station, trying to keep an entire thing afloat, and you're just trying to survive, you have to make cuts, and so you're trying to keep everything going, it's pretty risky just to throw someone a microphone in a world where if you say something bad, one, it can have backlash on your company, or two, it could lead to a fine that is going to be as expensive as the amount of money you're trying to save, apparently, with restructuring stuff. It's a risky thing. And I for one, thought, okay, this is probably the safe move, and I'm not mad about it. Plus, it's 2024. If you want to say goodbye to a fan base, get on social media and make a video. Make a 10 to 20-minute video. Is it the exact same as getting on the radio? No, it's not. It's not the same. It's not really close, but it is close because it's not 1998 anymore. You get on Facebook, get on Instagram, get on everything. Make a 10-minute video, explain what happened, say goodbye, and it's going to get shared like wildfire. Everyone of your listeners is going to see it. People aren't going to be out of the loop. And if they're out of the loop, they're out of the loop in general if they don't know how to work technology at this day and age. So I was kind of like, look, you could have said, you can say goodbye. You can get on, all of us can get on social media and make a post, make a video, make audio, right? It's available. So that kind of bothered me. But what really bothered me was some people who were in the industry, and we're going to get into it, some people who were in the industry who I just thought knuckleheads. And Keith Oso, good night, dude. Chill out. Chill out. Bitterness, man. Bitterness does not look good on you. Keith Oso was on a great sports radio show in Spokane. Patchen, Lukens, and Oso. I love Dennis Patchen. And Keith Oso was so good on that show. I numerous times talked with my good friend Kevin James back in the day. We would listen to Patchen, Lukens, and Oso, and we were like, Oso is carrying that show for us. He was really good on the radio. I really liked him. He's really dumb on social media. He went in on this weekend and just went in on it. Tagged the boss, like in just the pettiest move, took a shot at everyone at the company, tagged the boss, and just in the pettiness of it all, bitterness of it all, lameness of it all, and just went in, talking about how he worked for a number 1 rated sports show. Dude, you were the only show. You were the worst rated sports show, too. What are you talking about? No, we're a number 1 rated sports show. Yeah, dude, what? You were the one. That's like me saying Dickow and I were the number 1 rated sports show because we technically were too in the afternoons. But I'm also not stupid. A sports show in Spokane, it might be the number 1 rated sports show, but in terms of radio and your time slot, you're in the teens. I could look back and I guarantee you there's not a time where Patchen, Lukens, Oso, Spokane sports show, Patchen and Julie Scott, took me forever to remember her name. Bud Fan and the Wingman. Locker Room with Toby and Bob. The Locker Room with Toby and Jamie. All the shows that I can remember that were local sports shows throughout the years. All of them. You're not getting top 10 ratings in Spokane for your show. You might be number 1 in the category of sports, but that's not how that works. That's such a sneaky sentence to try to throw in there to rile up the masses. Look, Jay, Kevin, Slim, when we were doing our show, we were the number 1 country music morning show. But we also weren't dumb. All right, we were number 2, number 3 behind Dave and Ken. Sometimes we were number 1. Sometimes Dave and Ken were number 1. Sometimes we were number 2, and then the radio men, they'd be number 1. Like we were jostling between 1, 2, and 3. But we never went out and said, like, yeah, we're the number 1 rated country music show. You're rated along with every single radio thing. So that got me fired up when Oso decided to go there and say, a number 1 sports show, we got let go. Okay, you were like number 12 in the ratings, dude. All right, chill out. Don't come at bosses for that. But the thing that bothered me a lot about everything is that guys like Keith, guys like, I think Rick Lukens got involved in it. This girl we worked with, Tansy, got involved with it. Like all these people who worked at KXOY who were let go because they weren't making enough money for the company to keep them. It seems pretty obvious, everyone. If you're running a business and you're paying someone something and you're not making enough money to pay them, you can't keep them. Why is this hard for, why is this hard for people to understand? Do you want to lose Patch and Lukens and Oso? Probably not. Did you want to get rid of Dave and Ken? I guarantee you didn't. I guarantee you didn't. But we don't live in this world where you have a money tree at the back of the KXOY building or any radio station building, and you're like, you know what? I know we're not making enough money, but we're just going to go in the back, pull money off the money tree, and we're going to pretend like everything's good. You have to make moves. You have to let people go because that's how business works. Business. This isn't about favorites or what you want to have happen. It's the reality of numbers, X's and O's. This is not a corporate thing where it's like, well, this is big business decisions. This is from local business to huge business. If you don't have the money to pay for employees and they're not making you enough money, you let them go whether you like them or not. Period. Okay, but the next thing that happened was a lot of these people who claim to have friends still in the building go boycott. And it's aimed, Keith Oso, at the person you tag. A gal who probably made the decision. I don't even know if she made the decision. It was probably made above her, but she's the general manager. And there's this post that's tagged her in it. Baby stuff. And then it feels like a boycott KXOY. KXOY leaves much to be desired. Their sales staff stinks, all this stuff. Now, you are now affecting not just the person you tagged. You are affecting everyone. And I thought that was real cheesy, real lame. Because I get it, you may be bummed. You're like, oh, Dave and Ken are gone. I'm mad, what can I do? Oh, we'll boycott the station. Okay. If you boycott, if you're someone who's advertising and you boycott, you're not just affecting the one or two people who made the decision about Dave and Ken. You're affecting Anthony, who works there. You're affecting Houston. You're affecting Steve Hawk. You're affecting Jay and Kevin. You're affecting Scotty Buns. You're affecting Ian. You're affecting Sam. You're affecting the new guy, Steve, Jim Diamond. You're affecting the kids who have part-time jobs, working events. You are affecting by your post, where you want to just like suddenly be this bitter hero many years later after leaving the building. You're affecting so many people by promoting this like act of we're going to boycott KXLY. You can be mad about it. I get it. If Jay and Kevin had got fired on Friday instead of Dave and Ken, I would have been so mad. I would have been so bummed. My guys. Okay, I get it. But gosh dang, man, we had baby time this weekend. And it just reminded me how stupid Facebook is and how bitter people are. Oh, did any of that make sense? I'm sure I'm in a fight now. I'm sure I'm just going to continue to be right where I am, but whatever. I felt bad. I felt bad for everyone. Again, I feel terrible for the listeners of Dave and Ken. I feel terrible for Dave and Ken, but I think a lot of times, and a thing that has been missed this weekend is just how business works. You make money, you pay employees. If you're not making enough money to pay employees, you get rid of employees. And that decision's not fun, and that decision's probably not easy, but it's a decision that has to be made because you can't just magically make money appear. It has to be earned.
Kelly's, what are you into?
I did it. I got caught up. 4 episodes. I watched The Acolyte. I watched The Acolyte. Saw it all this weekend, the 4 episodes that are out, and I have no idea if I like it or not. My buddy Jeremy loves it. One of my other friends is on the fence about it. Marcus is, I think, also on the fence about it. He still ignores my calls. He won't come on the podcast to talk about it. But there's a lot that's going on with that show behind the scenes. Marcus gets way too into the internet. He researches the shows. He wants to see all the reviews, all the speculation. And then what that leads to is the haters who are out there trying to poke holes in every single thing. And then he latches on. And then he can't enjoy anything because he's dug too deep into the internet. But I think I like it. I think I like the story of The Acolyte. I think it's kind of cool, right? It's prequels. Jedis are out there, but they're not regular. People don't quite understand them all the way, what their purpose is. And so I think it's kind of cool. I think the acting is not great. I think the acting in it kind of stinks. And I'm somebody who will put up with anything. But for some reason, even I was like, oh, that doesn't seem like great acting. I'm kind of taken out of the show. To that point, right? Where the acting is bad enough, you're like, oh, that's no longer the character. I feel like I'm watching a person trying to remember their lines. And that was a weird feeling because I normally don't feel that. I think some of the story has been dealt with sloppily. One of the big twists at the very beginning about who this girl is who's out there taking out Jedi. There's like a twist with that. And I thought it was dealt with extremely sloppy, where it was a really cool idea. And then it was just, it was just really weird how it was resolved. So there's that. But then everything about it that I was like, I don't know if I like it. I don't know if I like it. The end of episode 4 was one of the coolest things in a Star Wars show I've ever seen. And I was like, yeah, I'm in. I have to be in because of this scene at the end of episode 4. I'm in. They've got me until it's resolved, until that scene is resolved. And then we'll see where I'm at after that. So I give Acolyte a maybe. If you're searching and you can't find anything, give it a try. But otherwise, I don't know. I think try to find other stuff first. Watch Welcome to Wrexham. Watch some other stuff first before you dive into the Acolyte. And then if you do dive into the Acolyte, text me about it because, like I said, I'm all the way caught up. Let's read some comments, shall we? I feel bad. I'm sure I've ticked off a lot of people. And sorry, Keith, I loved you on Patch and Luke and Zoe, so I just thought your Facebook post was extremely petty, and someone needed to say something about it. Okay, Yvonne said this. The listeners are definitely family. Oh, we're talking about Friday's episode. The listeners are definitely family, especially as much as Coyote is involved with the community. Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you. You guys are family. I totally agree. You're family. I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. That's how the process works. It's really weird. Again, this is why it was a bummer Dave and Ken didn't get to do a goodbye show. It's risky to let them do. I guess maybe you could have someone go in studio. There's like a delay every radio station has. You could maybe have someone go in studio. They could have done a show with somebody who's one of the bosses sitting there, and if they said something inappropriate, you hit the delay, it cuts out whatever they said, and then you just shut down all the mics, and you just get them out of there. There would have been ways to do it. It is a very big bummer they didn't get to say goodbye. Very, very big bummer. Okay, Yvonne went on to say, you didn't discuss Wood's wall in his room. I listen to your podcast because I miss you and you are family. Thank you, Yvonne. So I screwed up in my son's room. We have a monitor that goes above the bed. And this monitor had one of them, we've used this exact monitor before, but the other monitor we had for my daughter has a stand that is like a movable stand, leans against the wall. This one had double-sided tape on it, and you would stick the monitor and like the cord covering device along the wall, and it runs down the wall behind the crib. Well, I hadn't really thought about this. My wife wanted some pictures hung above the bed as well. Well, I just put the monitor right down the middle. We're splitting the crib in half because that's what I had done with my daughters and my sons. Well, I hadn't thought about these pictures. My wife had said, well, I want these pictures right above the bed, 3 of them. So obviously, if they're going to look like they're in order, one of the pictures needs to be dead center, which means I needed to offset the monitor. Didn't do that. So I go to take the monitor off the wall. I'm like, okay, I've got more double-sided tape. I'll take this one off, and then we'll move it over. I'll use new tape and stick it up. The tape that was on that monitor was made of the strongest super glue ever created. And when I took that monitor off, it peeled paint and drywall off the wall. And it was a nice big chunk of that. And so it wasn't like it just peeled some paint off. It got in there. It ripped some wall off. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to have to spackle and paint it or hang a picture over it. So if you ever come over and you see the pictures in Wood's room, don't remove the middle picture, ever. That is our secret as long as we both shall live. All right, Tam's no big. Oh, I think this is Matt. Matt, what's up? He said, love the podcast. Dude, I guarantee he's not going to like it after today. I know I'm going to tick everyone off with my opinions there and going at some Facebook stuff, but I feel like I needed to rally a bit. He said, your take on Spokane media is spot on. You need a review of The Acolyte? I'm your Huckleberry. Okay, Matt, I'd love to get you on if you don't hate me now, because my take on Spokane media is still the same. I got a little caught up in some people getting real petty. I didn't love the tag. I didn't love the tag. I just can't. I'm going to get into it again right now. Businesses have to make moves. Matt would know this. Matt is big time. Matt's big time in all the places I've ever known him. He's run a lot of things. He's someone who I think is one of the top professionals in Spokane, and I'm guaranteeing you he's had to make moves that stink. Budgets, right? Budgets. I wish that we lived in a world of make-believe and everyone could just be cool and employed and make all the money in the world. I wish that was the case. I just don't think it is. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Ron said this. Sean'sLife.com is where he commented. Congrats on the new podcast. I don't listen to country music, so I'm not familiar with him, but I will definitely check out the pod. I love cover songs too. I recommend checking out Me First and the Gimme Gimmes. They are a side project and have members from the punk bands NoFX, Lagwagon, Strung Out, and their albums all have a theme. Love their cover of the Beach Boys' Sloop John B., which was actually used in The Wolf of Wall Street. Ron, I'm going to check him out. Stinking love covers with you. I'm going to check him out. I think we had a couple more comments on YouTube. I already know this episode is going to be a tank job. I'm already dreading it. I should just re-record it. But you get raw me on the Sean Widmer podcast. You just get raw me. All right, here we go. There's a lot of them. Roberta said this, the world of radio is the last of the Wild West. I remember when the other stations around town have suddenly dumped talent. It's harder around radio when another new station is now just a computer, not people. Being able to be family is a blessing we have had, and I'm glad to be part of yours. Thank you, Roberta. Yeah, I mean, the computer thing stinks. You know, being able to get automated on a lot of radio stations is taking a lot of jobs. It's really sad. It's really sad. Maybe the anger is being focused incorrectly. It's also, I mean, we're those of us, Rick, Keith, Dave, Ken, Molly, me, we're all very fortunate to have got to be part of radio at all. I feel very fortunate. I was very sad when they canceled Dicko on my show. I was kind of mad. I was sad, but I was able to be a realist and be like, I get it. We cost you money, and sports radio in Spokane doesn't sell well. It doesn't. It sells okay, but for what they need to generate to employ a whole staff of people, you have to make a lot of money, and it's just that's not how it works. So I felt at that time. So I felt very fortunate to at least be part of it at all. MM Hernandez says looks and sounds great. The new setup here with if you're watching on YouTube, new look, no longer the dungeon look. And she says I love Joe Nichols and excited for the new podcast. Yeah, thank you. Mad Skittles says, I need more Inlander tea. Maybe someday. Maybe Sunday. Houston says this, preach. They'll pivot. We know they will. Podcasts are life and just keep growing. The whole building is in shock. Don't forget about 920 and Dave Spencer too. What a freaking day and the upcoming weeks. Yeah, Houston's in the middle of it. Houston, you're somebody who I think I mentioned you. Right? When people were coming out saying boycott, someone like Houston, who I loved working with and is a workhorse and an awesome dude who deserves to be employed. If you boycott because you're mad about one thing that was made because of monetary reasons and not personal reasons, you affect Houston. You affect someone like that. That drives me crazy. You can't do that. Houston is such a good worker, and just because some numbers didn't work somewhere else doesn't mean that Houston should be affected by that. So if you're an advertiser, if you're somebody who advertised with the KXLY group, put your money in Jay and Kevin, man. Put your money in Jay and Kevin. Put your money on the boys on Coyote Country. They got you. Houston, I loved working with you, brother. Truly loved it. And Sharon said this, I'm going to cruise and saw you post a new podcast and finally in a port to watch. What a shock. I'm so surprised and disappointed about Dave, Ken, and Molly. I hope they find another place to land. It'll be interesting, right? It'll be interesting to see where they land. I mean, I would assume they do a podcast. I don't know that there's a radio station in Spokane looking to spend a bunch of money on a morning show. But do a podcast, Dave and Ken and Molly. Do a podcast. See what happens. Who knows? It'll be interesting. Maybe they'll go to another city. I mean, they're big time. Freaking big time. All right, I got to go.